guys, Alex here with Armadillo Armament. Today we are going to be discussing Aimpoint's foray into pistol red dot optics. Finally, right? We've been asking Aimpoint for years to come out with a micro T2 or an optic for a pistol, and they finally delivered. Now, before we jump into the video, I'm going to put some information on the screen. Use code Armadillo, you'll get 5% off your order. You'll buy a really cool patch, and you will plant one tree and remove 1 pound of junk from the ocean for every item in that order. You're not only getting a cool patch, you're saving the planet. All right, so the Aimpoint Acro P-2 is very interesting, but what's also very interesting is enclosed emitters that I'm going to give a small synopsis of right now before we jump into the video, because it's very important and it's going to be very brief. But enclosed emitters obviously are enclosed. Now, rifle optics for the longest time have had 2 panes of glass, one in front, one behind, to protect the emitter of the optic. And this technology really didn't come into pistols for a very long time, actually up until very recently. This, pretend it's an RMR Type 2. This is a open emitter optic. The RMR Type 2 is just maybe the most prolific one on the planet. What this has is 1 pane of glass up here and no panes of glass right here. So the LED emitter is not protected. Now, dirt and grime and gravel can get in there and potentially make it so your emitter is blocked. That's a big deal. When you draw your gun from your holster and you're not able to see your dot whatsoever, in comes the closed emitter optic. This is actually protected in numerous ways from allowing dirt and water and everything to get inside your optic and potentially shut it down. That is the concept behind the closed emitter optic. And Reddit and Instagram and YouTube within the past couple of years decided that if you don't have a enclosed emitter optic, that you were an idiot and that these were the future. Well, I'm here to say that enclosed emitters are really cool, and I'm actually kind of moving towards them in a lot of ways. However, don't throw out your open emitter optics, because they have had a lot more time to develop and they are extremely reliable. I'd argue more reliable than an enclosed emitter. All right, so that is why closed emitter optics exist. Now let's talk about the Acro and why it has become one of my favorite optics on the planet. And let's get into specifications. First of all, we're not going to be going over all the nerd stuff, but the Acro P-2 does have 10 settings, 6 normal settings, and 4 night vision settings. On setting 6, which is fairly visible, you are going to be getting 50,000 hours of battery life. That's something that Aimpoint is known for, right? That 50,000 hour battery life is something that you constantly see marketed for their T2, and I'm really glad they brought this over. Now, it's important to note that the Acro P1 had a abysmal battery life. This is a direct improvement on the Acro P1 in many ways. The Acro P1 also had a lot of fogging issues as well. I've never owned one, but I've heard it, okay? You can search that over on Reddit or Google, and you can find stories everywhere about it. This, having a 50,000 hour battery life when it is left on, is a massive improvement. Now, I also turn my optic off. You can do that by holding the minus button. So realistically, this can last, a ludicrous amount of time. But let's continue talking about the specs. This does have 35 meters of water resistance in case you are snorkeling with your Glock. I don't know about you, but I don't really need that water resistance. I mean, my watch allows me to go 300 meters down. I'm not ever 300 meters down, guys. I'm already afraid of the ocean anyway, so I'm not bringing my Glock in the ocean. And the last important thing about the Acro is going to be the mount. Now, it's very normal for mounts to obviously have a screw-based design. You can see here that this screws into your slide. Same with this EPS, right? You can see the 2 screws right there. The Acro is a very interesting mount. And you will see this is the cross bolt right here. It actually mounts very similar to a rifle light, or a rifle optic rather. And this is a criticism that many people give the Acro. They say that its footprint is a little bit too unique. And because of that, it causes compatibility issues with many other optics. I think the MPS is probably the only other optic that fits this platform. But I'm here to tell you that I am a huge fan of this mount design. This is a Aimpoint tool that comes with it. Basically, in order to tighten or loosen it, you're going to tighten and loosen that cross bolt. And you can almost think of what's under here. I'll put a picture on the screen right now. It's almost a Picatinny-like design in a way. It is a clamp, if you will, similar to rifle optics. And because of that, I've spoken with aimpoint reps. They're able to tell me that the pressure of the optic is not, or rather the strength of the optic mount isn't completely on these two screws right here, and instead is much more evenly distributed across that entire clamp design. And I believe them. I also really like the fact that it only has this one screw, and that screw is really putting all the pressure on this piece of metal right here that kind of looks like a chef's hat, right? That chef's hat is taking all of that pressure, and it's very easy to not screw up this tightening process. If you know anything about me, you know that I am a optic killer. I can't tell you how many screws I've stripped. I can't tell you how many optics I've broken. This aimpoint Acro, the mounting process is extremely easy because of this cross bolt design, and I really like it. So that criticism is off the board. I think it's completely unwarranted. I really like the mounting of the Acro P-2. Now, to continue talking about these specs, this is a 3.5 MOA dot, which hopefully I can get a picture of right now. It's obviously going to be a little bit blurry because I'm holding it up to a camera, but the dot of the Acro P-2 is, once again, 3.5 MOA. 3.5 MOA is probably my favorite MOA. I really like lower MOAs. I don't like 5 MOA or even 8 MOA like a lot of competition shooters say, because I think if you get good at shooting, you should be able to do so with a smaller dot and not lose the dot. 3.5 MOA is a really good middle ground between a larger dot and a more accurate dot. And I find that Aimpoint's diode technology, or whatever LED emitter they're using, just creates a extremely precise dot that works very well with my eyes. I have astigmatism, so depending on what dot I'm looking through, some of them look great, some of them look awful. This 507 comp has a decent looking dot for me. It works pretty well with my eyes. It does have a small kind of starburst effect. This EPS definitely has a little bit of a starburst effect for me, all right? Even though it looks perfect on the camera, because that's just how our eyes work, the Acro 100% has the best looking dot for my eyes. It is incredibly precise, and I know that Aimpoint did a lot of research and a lot of development and a lot of technology to make that dot look as good as it does. Now, the next thing to talk about with the Acro P-2 is definitely also going to be the glass quality. The glass on the Acro, even though there are 4 panes of glass inside this optic, right? Sacrificial and then a main lens, and then sacrificial and a main lens. Even though there are 4 panes of glass, I find that the Acro's edge-to-edge clarity, as well as glass clarity, is unmatched. I will be having reviews of this EPS and this comp right here, and they will be very favorable reviews actually, but the Acro's glass is just absolutely fantastic, and it's going to be very hard for me to show you guys, but if I move it around my mat, you can see that there's almost no warping on the sides at all. Now, if there was warping, you would see that these letters right here would kind of smudge out a little bit. That's not the case. There is really no warping, and I've been incredibly impressed with the glass quality of this dot. And that's also very impressive for me because I generally don't care about this stuff. I love my RMRs, my RMR-CC, my RMR Type 2, and I don't care about that notch filter. I don't care about the edge-to-edge kind of clarity as much because at the end of the day, guys, you're just putting the dot over the target and pulling the trigger, right? But when something is this good, it's something that I need to point out. So, Aimpoint, good work on the edge-to-edge clarity. I'm a huge fan of it, and I can definitely tell that this is a quality optic. All right, form factor. Form factor is pretty important. A lot of people see this and they say it looks like a mailbox. And boy, do I have news for you. It is a mailbox, as you can see by the little red flag. That's obviously a joke. I'll put a picture on the screen now where you can buy these. You can get $5, gets you like 40 of them. It's just kind of funny. But the Acro clearly is a very boxy design. That being said, in person, it is a lot smaller than you may think. A lot of people think that this is going to make concealed carrying a little bit harder, or, you know, well, I guess that it's going to print when you are concealed carrying. I have a holster right here. When you put this in your holster, guys, it's really no different than any other optic. It is a fairly low profile design. It's not going to be printing whatsoever. It takes up just as much room as anything else. And to prove that, this is taller than the Acro, guys, right? If anything, this is going to print more. This is a 507 comp, but still, my point still stands. The footprint is great. I really like the crossbolt design, and I don't find the footprint to be obtrusive whatsoever. Now, to continue talking about kind of the specs of the optic, we have the controls, and this is where one of my first complaints is going to come in. First of all, we have a plus and minus button. If you guys know anything about me, you know that I'm a very simple man. I like my optics to be simple. I like everything to be simple. That's why I love my RNVGs. Plus makes the brightness go up, minus makes the brightness go down. I love it. It's simple. I hold down the minus button, it turns the optic off. I press any button, it turns it back on. There is no shake awake technology, and there is no auto brightness. I don't really care about auto brightness. I think it can be interesting, especially on the new RMR HD, but generally speaking, you know what? Honestly, if you removed auto brightness from my optics, I'd be okay with it because I like my things to just be easy, simple, reliable. The Acro definitely lends itself to that. It is a easy, simple, and reliable optic. My first complaint, though, is going to be around this battery tray. This battery tray is made of plastic. A lot of companies make replacements for it. Wager Machine actually just came out with their Generation 2. I think it even holds a spare battery, but the plastic battery compartment is pretty lackluster to the point where Aimpoint actually even sells a metal one on their website. So once again, very simple controls, but I would like to see that improved in a Generation 3 Acro, right? P3 maybe come with a metal one. In order to remove that, you're actually going to want to use the Aimpoint tool. I've used a quarter before and it will rip up that plastic. You actually just want to slot that in and turn, and it will usually do a pretty good job. You might get a lot of marring over there, and I've seen a lot of people really shred those caps. Now, to continue talking about tools, we have the adjustment, which is going to be my other complaint. The Aimpoint T2. The T2 uses their battery cap in order to adjust your left, right, up, and down adjustments, right? And I think that's a pretty intelligent design. They clearly wanted to kind of like maintain that moving forward. However, they don't have those, battery caps or those caps to adjust it on the Acro. So instead, they make you use this little Aimpoint tool. Now, this Aimpoint tool is pretty good. I actually keep it on a keychain a lot of the time. And it's pretty robust, right? It's not flexible at all. It's a pretty quality bit, but I don't like the idea of having to use this tool in order to adjust. It is a pretty simple adjust. Just slide it in, up, down. Hopefully I didn't mess up my zero too much. It should be good. But the adjustments are extremely tactile. I just simply wish that it was a little bit different. I would like it to kind of have the hollow sun train of thought, or other optics where you can use the bullet casing in order to adjust up, down, left, right. I think that's a much more, yes, it can get bumped and potentially lose your zero, but I like being able to not have to carry these tools because I have gone to the range in order to zero my 45 before and find that I didn't have this tool. Once again, though, the Acro, I really am just splitting hairs here. It is a fantastic design, fantastic optic. There are just little tiny incremental things that I could see being improved moving forward. Now, I do want to give a history of my Acros. I have a video on the channel from about a year or so ago when I was first getting into 2011s. I bought an Acro P-2 and I did an unboxing video. That unboxing video, you can go view it on my channel. I talk about the P2 a lot. That P2 was fantastic, but I sent it back because I didn't move forward with that staccato. So that was my first Acro. My second Acro I purchased probably about 6 or so months ago when I was getting, or rather, when I bought this Tallow Edition G45, it came with an Acro. Now, remember I told you that the glass clarity and edge to edge and dot and everything is fantastic? Well, there is one thing that's a little bit weird about the Acro, and that is the fact that if you turn the brightness all the way up, or maybe not all the way, but more than what you normally would, you will see on the left and right, you can see it right now, there are these little red lines. Now, the camera isn't detecting it as well as my eyes do, but basically, I have a very bad astigmatism. I don't really care too much about it. I don't wear corrective lenses or glasses or anything, but my bad astigmatism, what it does is it actually connects that dot and these lines over here to the point where I thought my acro might have issues, right? So I called the warranty team. I spoke with Aimpoint and they were fantastic. And he said, nope, send it back and we're going to try to fix it or send you out a new one. Well, I got a call back like 2 days later and he said, hey, we're not even going to look at it. We're just going to send you out a new one because that's how we roll here. So Aimpoint's warranty is fantastic. However, when I got the Acro back, it had the exact same issue, quote unquote issue. And after speaking with a couple people, speaking with my friends that own Acros, guys, this is just a thing with red dots. To be honest, I guess I just haven't really noticed it because when I do it on this dot, I see the same thing. It just depends on kind of like the lens design. Because this has 4 panes of glass and it's a little bit more reflective on the sides, it's just a little bit more easy to see with my eyes. It's not an issue. I'm just explaining to you guys exactly what happened here and why I had to warranty this. It wasn't a problem with the optic, but it's important because getting that optic back, that means I've had a sample size of 3, and all 3 of those optics have had 0 glue issues, 0 lens issues, 0 water incursion issues, 0 anything. So I don't hold that against the Acro at all. It's just kind of a problem with my eyes that I didn't really understand at the time, and now I understand it a lot better. And when I, once again, turn up the brightness on all my dots to a greater or lesser degree, it does the exact same thing. It just depends on kind of like the sides and reflectivity of the lens. All right, so the shooting experience with the Acro, why you're all here, and why we've taken 16 minutes to get to this point. And it's really interesting. So the Acro shoots a lot different to many other optics. Now, if you speak with a professional shooter, they will tell you that the size of the optic really doesn't matter. Yes, a larger optic like this 507 comp, yes, that can make the shooting experience a little bit better. Same with the SRO, one of my favorite optics, if not my favorite shooting optic. I have a video on that, go take a look. The Acro is a much, much smaller window than the venerable SRO or this 507 comp, right? And because of that, if you are not doing your part, you can technically lose your dot. Now, even though the optic is technically smaller than a SRO or this comp in the corner, because of this box design, I don't know how to describe it, but when I bring this up to my eye naturally wants to find the center of that box. With a non-enclosed optic, when I bring this up, not that I have any problem finding the dot, but when I bring this up or a new shooter brings this up, it might be difficult to find that dot. And iron sights don't really have this problem because when you're new, you can just bring those rears up and then be like, oh, well, my front iron sight's a little bit off. Let me just tuck it down a little bit and now it's perfect, right? That's how eyes work, guys. That's why the SRO is so appealing to us. It's a circle and our eyes love circles. I find that because this is kind of a tube, when I bring this up to my eye, I never am off with the dot. And Mojo on YouTube, Milspec Mojo, has a really good video talking about this. I'm not going to pull from his video. Go watch his video on the Acro. But he talks about because it is a tube, instead of just a one-dimensional field, because it is a tube, our eyes naturally are going to see the edges of the tube and course correct, right? So if we bring our optic up and we're here, well, you can see this little black space over here, right? So your eyes are naturally gonna course correct. And I think that's a really cool phenomenon that the Acro P-2 exhibits. I don't really get that as much on the EPS because the EPS is much smaller, but the Acro, because it is so long, I find that that's a really cool advantage. Now, once again, guys, if you train, this doesn't matter whatsoever because you're gonna naturally just bring the optic up and it be perfectly in your field of view, right? But if you're new to shooting, that might be a big advantage for you guys. So the Acro, even though it does have a smaller window size, it still is a great shooting optic. And that's all I have to say about the Acro is a lot of people are very critical of it online. They consider, or they compare it to, let's say, an RCR, or they compare it to this 508 comp. And they say, oh, well, why would I want such a small window? And the reality is window size really doesn't matter. Just do your part, get good with the optic, and you won't really have that issue whatsoever. Now, the last topic of discussion for the video is going to be the price. When the Acro first came out, it kind of got a lot of flack because a lot of people were scalping this, and it really did start at that $600 range. Do understand that you are buying an Aimpoint product, and Aimpoint products aren't cheap, guys. T2s are more expensive than even EOTechs, right? We're looking at $600 or so for just that. Since then, though, the Acro really has come down in price a lot. I got this on my Tallow Edition G45 for, I think, about $1,000 out the door, which put this at about $500, and that included the irons, the mount, everything, right? Or not the mount, but the cut. So probably about $400, if not less, $350. But you can find these on gun deals for about $400. You are getting a extremely premium optic. I didn't want to love the Acro, right? Because I didn't want to love closed emitter optics. I wanted to stay by venerable open emitters because I trust them and they're reliable. But since then, I've really branched out into the EPS and the Acro, and I've had nothing but success. I love this optic. This is my favorite concealed carry optic on the planet. The EPS is really good, and I'll be having a review on this, but as of this moment, the Acro is my favorite. And because of that, it is a little bit more expensive than a $200 or $300 Holosun that you can find. It's up to you to justify that, because once again, this is fantastic, and I will be having a review on this, and it's going to be very favorable. But this Acro, guys, it's just, it's everything it needed to be and a little bit better. So if you don't want to shell out the money, $400 for an optic, $400 to $500, don't do it. You will be well served by an EPS or a different Holosun unit, but I have no problem with Aimpoint justifying this as a $600 optic, which once again, the price has come down quite a bit. So just to wrap up this video, I am extremely impressed with my Acro. If I didn't mention already, this has had close to about 3,000 rounds and 3 different ones. So I have had a generous sample size to go through. From its unparalleled dot clarity, its crystal clear glass, its night vision is fantastic. It's extremely rugged. I've thrown this in my gym bag many times. I've dropped this off of my, I mentioned this previously, but I don't drop my optics intentionally on concrete like Sage Dynamics. That's his thing. You know what I do is I go to the bathroom, or I go to the kitchen, and I drop it off of off the tub or off the sink by accident, because I do that all the time. I've never had any cracks. I've never had any breaks. This thing, as far as I know, is just as tanky as anything else out there. Yes, it's pricey, but you are investing in a fantastic optic made by warranty, or made by a company that has a fantastic warranty and a fantastic pedigree, right? You are investing in a tool that will perform, from my experience, every time in really any condition. I haven't had any moisture incursion issues. I haven't had any fogging issues, but I do know that if I ever did have those issues, Aimpoint would immediately take care of me, similar to how they do on Reddit. We keep seeing these on Reddit where every once in a while people have issues and they'll post, then they'll make an update later saying, oh yeah, Aimpoint took care of me. They sent me out a brand new one. That's how you do a warranty, guys. And remember, there's so many out there now that if you see a lot of posts on these things breaking, remember that there's 48 million of them in production. So maybe it's just the fact that there's so many out there. But once again, if you're looking for either the best or tied with the best, EPS is really good, tied with the best enclosed optic on the planet, the Aimpoint P-2, it really has set the standard for me, and it very well may be that option. It definitely has impressed me. And I do think that spending the extra money on an optic that's as quality as this, and just has the warranty and the pedigree that Aimpoint has, I think it's well worth your money, right? This has been Alex with Armadillo Armament, guys. Stay prepared. Remember, your gear should work as hard as you do. Buy gear that works as hard as you. Buy gear that's as dependable as you are. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.